Hello YouTube, this is Tree Hugger Dude just chiming in. It is April, near the end of April, but still April, and it is the Poetry Month. So in celebration of that, I wanted to go over Phillis Wheatley's poem on being brought from Africa to America. It's a very interesting poem, and she's a very interesting poet, so I just thought that I would discuss it briefly. But who is Phillis Wheatley? Phillis Wheatley was a slave born in 1753, around that area. There's a degree of uncertainty, but around 1753. And she was sold to a Boston family, the Wheatleys. And something that's special about her is that their youngest daughter taught her to read. Their youngest daughter, Mary, taught Phillis to read. Phillis was named after the name of the ship that brought her to the United States, which is interesting too. Anyway, Phillis Wheatley was taught to read and she became very educated. She studied astrology, geography, she studied history, and the Bible. She was very, very educated and a reverend in their community, Reverend George Whitefield, died. And because she was involved with the church, she decided to write a eulogy for him. And so she wrote the eulogy, and people really, really liked it. They were very surprised that this slave, whom they did not expect to know how to read and write or talk as eloquently, they were really surprised when she came out with this beautiful eulogy. So interestingly enough, she gained a certain amount of fame from this eulogy. And so she continued writing, and there was a market for her. There was this type of white authentication that happened with her. White people kind of approved of her literature, and so she had more of a platform and more of an opportunity to kind of make it work as a writer. Which I think is, and it's interesting to think about. It's certainly interesting to think about, for me at least. And so anyway, she wrote this. She wrote various poems, including one to the president, George Washington. She wrote another one to a black painter, Scipio Moorhead, and an Indian minister, Samson Occom. And something that's really special about her is that she was the first African-American woman to publish a book of poems, only the second woman in the United States to publish a book of poems. So she was definitely a first in many respects and very important poet. But anyway, onto the poem that I wanted to discuss on being brought from Africa to America. So I'll read it to you briefly, and then we'll go over some of the lines and some of the words that I feel like are very thought-provoking. Okay. "'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Some view our sable race with scornful eye. Their color is a diabolic dye. Remember, Christian, Negroes black as Cain may be refined and join the angelic train." So what is she getting at there? I think that in the beginning you start to see some hints at sarcasm and tongue-in-cheek. Let's listen to that again. "'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land." Was it really mercy though? I mean, this is a slave. She gained her freedom when her owners died, but she was a slave, and she probably remembered what it was like to be a free woman before she was stolen from Africa. So I think that's a very interesting diction, you know. Was it really mercy, or is she being sarcastic? Uh, anyway, she goes on to say, "It was mercy brought me from my pagan land." I mean, this is someone, like all, as the slave narratives attest, like all African Americans, or like many African Americans, they had their own culture, they had their own language, they had their own religion, they had their own traditions and rituals and norms. And upon being brought to America and Europe and South America and all over, from the slave trade, they were kind of stolen from their culture. They were forced to learn English or Spanish or French, and they were uh, kind of separated from their culture. Their culture was erased. In the U.S., it was criminalized. You could not speak that language. You could not try to preserve that culture, um, and you know, that was a huge crime. You know, that was a huge theft of the African people. Um, And that's why I think pagan, just like mercy was kind of a strange choice of words, I think pagan is also a strange choice of words. I mean, and at the time that she wrote that, she had converted to Christianity, but, excuse me, surely she remembered what her religion was before that, and surely, you know, she didn't really mean it when she said pagan. I feel like she's kind of being critical of the entire colonial process that was undertaken with this white man's burden kind of a manifest destiny kind of mentality, a merciful perspective, that came to her pagan land, you know, with good intentions and to save her and to teach her. But I feel like she's being very, very sarcastic here, and she's kind of making this jab at that entire colonial imperialist process that she's only recently, you know, experienced. Um, Anyway, 'twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Why did she not seek redemption? Why did she not know redemption? Because she had her own religion, because she was happy with her own religion, because her people were happy in their own country with their own beliefs and their own way of life before being forced to adopt the customs and the language and the practices of their colonizers. I think that's what she's getting at there. Why else would she neither know nor seek another? Why else would she neither know nor seek redemption? Because there was nothing wrong with what she was doing in Africa. That's how I'm interpreting it. So I feel like so far the poem has definitely been a criticism of imperialism, of colonialism, and it's been in a very, very subtle way that also makes use of Christianity as a type of frame to understand this criticism. But it's been very subtle so far. Let's see where this goes. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Some view our sable race with scornful eye. Their color is a diabolic dye. Remember Christians, Negroes, black as Cain, may be refined and join the angelic train. This part is interesting to me because it's not subtle at all. You know, what is she doing? She's calling out all Christians on the hypocrisy of Christianity at that time, a religion that was advocating peace, a religion that was advocating tolerance and fraternity, and humanity. And she's calling out the Christians saying, you know, remember Christians, you know, black people are worthy of living in an egalitarian society. They're worthy of being respected, of being treated as equals. They can join the angelic train because Black people, just like white people, just like everyone, is moving in the same direction towards a better society. Um, I feel like that's a very interesting kind of perspective that she brings up. The hypocrisy of the church and her tacit way of kind of scolding Christians in an era that was pre-civil rights, in an era that was pre-abolition, pre-Emancipation Proclamation. Um, she eventually gained her freedom when her owners died, but for the most part, this is a slave that was writing this. So I feel like it's very interesting to see how she used her platform and her privilege in order to shine a light on these important issues and in order to subversively critique the Christian faith and the colonial process that her country, Africa, had been going through. So I think what I really like about this poem, being brought from Africa to America, is that it really illustrates what poetry can be, what poetry can do when people take it seriously. While it's nice to listen to poems that just discuss the joys of life and the thrills of being in love and the pains of heartache and disappointment, well, all that's nice. I think that Phillis Wheatley illustrates what a socially conscious poet can do to try to instigate social change. Her work was definitely commenting on the society in which she lived. And as a poet who, unlike many other Black poets at the time, had a platform and had the ability to reach out to a great, amount of people, I think that it's interesting to see how she used her platform in order to try to advocate for and fight for her community. So I think that that proactive, progressive, socially conscious approach to literature is something that I identify with and something that I find highly inspiring, actually. So that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know what y'all think about the poem, if y'all have other interpretations of it. I invite you to comment in the section below. But what do you think? Do you think there's something to these interpretations I've brought, or do you think that maybe I am reading too much into it, or maybe she meant something else? She had some other kind of message that she wanted to transmit. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks so much for listening.